reception afterwards with American comfort food, like mac and cheese and cake and cookies and stuff like that. It's pretty on topic, so you'll have that to look forward to. Maybe I should have said anything. I was just sitting here wanting mac and cheese. But I'd like to hand it over to Kevin to tell you a little bit about our membership program and how you can support Celestine that way.
Hi, everyone. So last year was a big step forward for Celestina, and it was, due to people like you who attend our concerts and who support us in different ways. Last year we started something called our membership program, which includes benefits like tickets and all kinds of other things, along with a gift, a tax-deductible gift to Celestina. And the people who joined the membership program last year and who did this year as well form a really important sort of core support to our organization. And I just wanted to acknowledge them. So if you were a member last year or you're a member this year, could you kind of just raise your hand so we can acknowledge you? Tonight's concert is presented in partnership with Bridge to Everywhere, which is a really fantastic organization with a great mission. Bridge to Everywhere folks, can you also raise your hand or stand so people can... And we'll turn it over to ourselves.
This music, any images run through your mind as you're hearing just those few couple of measures? What did it sound like? Did you have a visualization of the music? Did it sound like something familiar, maybe? Did it sound like something that maybe, that maybe Copeland could have written, or Charles Ives on one of his more lucid days? The non-poly tonality of Charles Ives. Well, that was actually a passage from the piece that is going to receive its very first performance here this evening, American Mirror, and the composer is Derek Spiva. As beautiful as that music is, it is not an uncommon representation of what is the American sound in classical music. A sound that took us a little while to find, a sound that they asked Antonin Dvorak to come find, and he said, well, no, that sound is here already, you don't need me. This music sounds American, doesn't it? It just sounds like it's from us. But the piece, the whole piece, as you'll hear it this evening, is so much more than capturing just that one part of the American musical experience. And we'll get into all of that as we continue here this evening. This is a Sounds Genius event for Celestina. So we're going to explore the music before we hear the music. And I guess I didn't introduce myself. I'm Brian Lorentzen from Classical KUSC. It's my joy and my delight to now have been associated with the Celestina Music Society for six seasons. And I thought I would start our discussion of this music with a question that I invite you to respond to in actuality, and I will put myself out there as well. But if you could, in just one word, I know this is always difficult. In one word, describe what it means to you to be an American. A single word, just throw it out there. Yell it out.
Free.
Free.
Dicey.
Dicey.
Democracy.
I'm sorry?
Democracy.
Democracy.
Diversity.
Diversity.
Independent.
Independence. Conflicted. Splendid.
Candid.
I'm sorry?
Open.
Open.
Candid.
Can do.
Nature.
Hyphenate. Yes, that's good. Passion.
Nature.
Nature.
Melting pot.
Melting pot. We'll hyphenate that one. We're not strict. Good. I love all of these. What about for our musicians? Do you have words?
Mine was conflicted, but someone stole it. Probably I'd go with hopeful.
Mm.
Opportunity.
Opportunity.
Idea.
Idea.
Let's say possibility.
And to all of this, I would say, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is what it means to be an American. All of these words. Mine is sort of like yours, conflicted. Complicated is mine. It's a complicated experience, and I love that we all have different answers to this question, right? Because what does it mean to be an American? It means a lot of different things to different people. We are a nation that was conceived on the idea of freedom from tyranny. And we are also a nation that is built on a system of oppression. And we are a nation that took freedom from people who were here first. So it's complicated, right? The thing that I love about the idea of Americanness is that all of the things that make it complicated or make us conflicted, we always try to do better. It's the old quote from Martin Luther King Jr., "The arc of history bends toward justice." We are hopeful. We are trying to get better and correct the wrongs where there are wrongs and celebrate the successes and the joys and the opportunities where they are and where they always have been. The most beautiful thing for me, I think, is every single American has a different experience. And for the most part, we do a pretty good job of making an effort to understand and identify with each other's experiences as diverse Americans. And this music tonight, at its heart, it's all about inclusion. It's about weaving a rich tapestry using very differently colored threads. And it is one composer's reaction to the present moment of what it means to be an American right now. So let's hear the music that we just heard, but now let's hear it in context. So not much has changed. we've added a few little bits of ornamentation, and all of a sudden, the sound, the overall effect of that music is so much deeper, so much richer, right? Well, we have our composer with us tonight, and I would like to invite Derek Spiva to join me right now. Derek. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you.
First of all, tell me about what you're wearing. Who are you wearing?
So this was actually made in Ghana, in the capital city, Accra. And it's actually kind of an interesting attire. The collar is like a Mandarin collar. But then these swirls are a cross between like North African and Indian designs. And so it's actually like the shirt itself is a cross-cultural outfit. So I enjoy wearing things like that.
Excellent. Welcome, thank you for being here. Thank you for writing this piece of music and donating it to Celestino.
Yes.
I'll ask you the question I asked everyone. One word. What does it mean for you to be an American?
So for me, it's humanity. There's so many different countries from around the world that are represented here, right in the United States. People come from all over the place, and there's so many people here. There's such a variance, and it's such a beautiful thing. And so when I think about, there's a lot of darkness in the past that we've had to go through as a country, but yeah, we're all still here. And I always tell my wife when we turn on the news and hear the latest shenanigans going on, I always say, well, there must be some kind of love somewhere, or else we'd have all been dead a long time ago. We're doing okay. It's all right.
American Mirror is the title of this piece. If you could, I'm on like a one-word theme. I'm in a one-word mood tonight. One word that describes the piece. Can you do that? Can you ask an artist to describe the work in one word?
I'll just say humanity again.
Fair enough.
One of the things that I did with this piece is I took, there are very specific ornamentations and decorations that are associated with different cultural music from around the world. But the thing about it is that because I've really immersed myself in performing a lot of this music and learning a lot of this music, there's a lot of overlap, a lot of points of connection. And just like us living here as a society, when you find those points, those overlapping points, those points of connection, it actually makes it easy to kind of put things together. And so you end up with influences from all over the place, kind of working together and moving together to create a lot of the harmonies and stuff that you're about to hear.
Yeah, and we'll actually give a preview of some of those, point out some of those moments for you before they play the piece in its entirety. But why did you think of Celestina for this particular piece?
So Celestina is awesome. One of the reasons why that's the case is this specific concert format. I remember last year, or was it the year before that? Something. I showed up and I sat through one of these Sounds Genius formatted concerts, and I really loved that they went layer by layer out of explaining where this piece that they were playing was coming from, what the intent was behind it, what the message was behind it. And by the time I left, I felt like I knew a whole bunch of more information, and I felt more connected to the music that I just heard because I knew like what it was about. There's actually several classical pieces that we all listen to where the intent behind writing that piece is probably lost because we just don't talk about it. So you're hearing these beautiful melodies and such, but you're kind of missing a valuable bit of information, like what was the point of them writing that piece. So this particular concert format that they do here is just so remarkable that they could kind of take the layers out. I just thought it would be the the perfect setting for this kind of a piece. Yeah.
When you sit down to write a new piece of music, when inspiration strikes, how do you choose things like, well, this is going to be a string quartet?
Well, often it starts off something completely different, and then I realize that it should go somewhere else. For this piece, it actually started off as a wind quintet, which I'm still going to do. I'm still going to do a wind quintet version. But there is... I knew she was going to do that. And she did that the first time I told her to. The string quartet, there's something really magical about the string quartet in that like they don't have to like take breaths, right, when they play. And so you can get these really long, beautiful lines, and they can just go on and off to the ether. And you just, oh, my heart just melts. I just love it. Just love it. So, yeah, that's why I write it for string quartet. The other thing was, actually, that's pretty much it.
There was no other thing. Take us through sort of the architecture of this piece, the structure. So we've got two movements. Are you telling a story? Is there a reason for how the architecture has been created the way that it is?
Yeah. So the piece is in two parts. I really am trying to tell a story. The piece will start off in the very beginning stages with some singing that you guys will be doing. You're just holding notes. Relax.
We didn't warn you ahead of time. The doors are locked too.
But there's a real sense of recollection. When people think about this country or they think about things, people recollect what it means to be an American, or they recollect a moment in their lives. And so that's what the very beginning of the piece is about. It's about kind of recollection and like interpreting what you think this place is. And then it's also about, at the same time, it's telling a story of an individual that's about to approach a journey that they're going to go on to get from point A to point B. And it's embedded within the recollection is also the wish and the desire and the kind of imagination of where somebody wants to go. So then as the piece kind of progresses forward through the very first part, there's a lot of that. And then the second part really has a lot to do with kind of the work and the pushback that people get when they're progressing forward and wanting to be kind of included in different groups. Everybody here, I'm sure, has felt excluded at some point from some conversation or from some group of people. And so the second part is really kind of about that push of trying to be included. And then also there's a lot of elements within the piece that quote different cultures. And all of these cultures are trying to work together, and sometimes it works really nicely, other times there's a little bit of dissonance, but it always resolves. It always resolves to some sort of harmonious situation, which I believe is going to happen.
That's a technical term, harmonious situation.
Yes, there you go.
Kevin mentioned, and we met our Bridge to Everywhere artists. Tell us just a little bit more about Bridge to Everywhere.
Yeah, so Bridge to Everywhere is the organization that's brought the art installation for you guys. Bridge to Everywhere is an organization that's actually designed to work specifically on music that has cross-cultural implications to it. So very specifically, like that's what the organization invests in. It invests in things that this group is doing right here, right now with this piece, and then also other pieces and artworks that are very specifically geared towards the layering and the kind of including of as many different cultures in single pieces as possible.
I want to talk just a little bit about music and art that addresses social issues. So in talking about the structure, the architecture, you've done a little bit of that with this piece. Thinking about throughout history, Beethoven did this a lot, right? The Eroica Symphony, originally dedicated it to Napoleon, and then Napoleon did the thing that he did, and Beethoven got mad and actually scratched a hole in the cover page of the score, knocking his name off. Handel, yeah. And like the inclusion of Turkish music in the Ninth Symphony, for example, you know, that was Beethoven saying more than just, you know, I'm going to have the bassoons make a raucous little march here. That was, you know, speaking out about what was happening in Vienna and how the Viennese were treating the Turks there. It's sort of the crossroads of the eastern edge of Western Europe, I guess. Dvorak, I mentioned, you know, he came to America on invitation from a woman who said, you know, come to America and help us find the American sound in music. And Dvorak got here and he said, well, you don't actually need me, a guy from Europe, to find the American sound in music. The American sound is here. It's in the music of African American spirituals. It's in the music of Native Americans. It's in the music of people who have been oppressed. And he used that music in the creation of things like the American String Quartet, the New World Symphony, and he said, okay, this is, you know, kind of how you can access that music and turn it into, say, a symphony or a string quartet. Verdi operas, same sort of thing, social activism in his operas. Is this something that you are actively seeking to do with this piece or with a lot of your music? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So it's kind of an interesting thing that it would be an issue to try and bring people together, but yet that is the time that we live in, and it's an issue to bring people together. But that's essentially what I do all the time in my music. It's not necessarily for me to kind of get on the soapbox, but it's more about me saying that people are trying, like really, really hard to work together. And and that's what this piece is about. It's about showing how people are they're really trying like hard to work together and to move as a single society. And you know, it's a lot of work, but we're doing it. It's happening, and hopefully you'll be able to hear that in the music. And I think that that's what the most important thing to me is that I am trying too. And so whenever I write a piece, I want as many people that's sitting out there to hear in my music something that they can identify with no matter where they're from. That they can be able to hear that and say, wow, you know, that sounds like something my mother would sing to me when I was trying to fall asleep at night when I was a kid. I would love to have somebody say that to me after they heard some of my music. So I really like to kind of dive into a lot of the folk traditions from around the world and find ways of weaving them together, because that particular style of music is something that's very personal to all of us. And yeah, there you go.
The musicians of Celestina are just super stoked to play this piece. We've seen all sorts of posts across social media, and by the way, Celestina Music Society on Facebook, if you don't already follow them. I thought maybe I'd ask you, actually, the four of you, and any of you can take this question. Why are you so excited about this piece? What's the allure for you?
Well, something Kevin and I have talked about a lot over the years, especially when we play music by people like Shostakovich, where a lot of political intent is sort of projected onto the music. It's easy to forget that the music is good in itself. So that's very true of this piece. You know, without this context that we've been talking about, it's still just really beautiful music. But also for me, you know, the social context that we're in right now, as an artist, you know, there's all this stuff that's floated around, like the Bernstein quotation, you know, now you reply to violence with art that is more beautiful. And I've always found that so unsatisfying and kind of platitude-ish. So it's quite meaningful and refreshing as a performer to get to do something that is very explicitly having a very positive and uplifting message that you can really get behind, and also happens to be a really beautiful piece of music.
So I agree with you. I agree that America is what every single person in America, or somebody who's living in America, experiences. So it's just this constantly evolving thing. So my father, who's here tonight, he came from India. And my mother, she passed away, but she came from Korea, and they both came here about half a century ago. Sorry, Dad. and I was born, he's like a century of that. And I was born here in Los Angeles. So, like Derek, what you were saying, basically, like, my experience of America included hearing my dad, walking around the house singing, Indian songs and ghazals, and sitting with my grandparents, my relatives who are also here, singing Hindu devotional songs before dinner. On my mom's side, my grandfather was a minister, and so we would go to church and we would hear church music and hymns, and sometimes the services were conducted entirely in Korean. The town that I grew up in, Diamondwater, which is like 20 miles east of here, has more minorities as an aggregate than Caucasians. So my friends growing up were every imaginable skin tone. And my parents, they never taught us that one culture was better than another. We were free to appreciate and to incorporate whatever we found attractive in other cultures into our own lives. And so through my friends, I came to have a real love for, the music that came out of African American communities, like soul and R&B and stuff like that. Just all kinds of cultures. So when I heard Derek's piece, and this wasn't even real musicians playing. He sent us samples. He'll have to tell you how he does that. But it's just basically samples, and I felt like it was representing me as an American, like my experience of America. And it has nothing. I have the utmost respect for what other American composers are doing. I'm not saying that this is more American than anybody else's. It just really. Like I personally never made an attempt to synthesize and to kind of bring together all the different parts of me with what I do on stage with classical music, And Derek did it for me. So I really just have. The feeling that I had when I first heard the piece was just gratefulness.
May I? So mine is it's a little bit more selfish, but honestly, this piece, starting on an instrument that's predominantly classical, you grow up, you learn classical repertoire, you play classical music, and it's wonderful. I love classical music, but I personally have always loved all music, all styles, all genres, and whenever I get a chance to do anything outside of the classical realm on my instrument, it is such a treat. So this piece, which encompasses like so many different kinds of music, touches different cultures, it's like satisfying in my soul, like it gives you a chance, it gives you a chance to sing, kind of. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's funny. Yeah, and you say like it encompasses your experience, but I'm like white as they come, and I'm pretty Eastern European. That's all I got. But all of this speaks to me too, and that's the beautiful thing about being an American in America is that we are lucky enough to have all these different cultures, different types of people around us. I think it's such a blessing, honestly, in this country. It's just I feel very lucky, and his piece sort of brings that out for me. So yeah.
I feel like I need to say something now. But I'm fairly new to this country. I've only been here for about 7 years, and it's been very interesting going on this journey with my fellow musicians here and Derek, of course, because it's just revealed to me a lot of things that I've never really thought about the multiculturalness of this country and what traditionally represents America, so to speak. And so it's been an eye-opening journey actually for me. And as a cellist, as a classical musician, we're so used to expressing or being emotional or expressive. in a certain way, in the sort of Western classical tradition. And yet you are given a melody that is so not something that you play every day. But it's the most expressive stuff, and I've never really been expressive in this way, ever. And it's